Appreciate it, Chris.
No worries.
Thanks,
of course.
sir.
Thank you.
All right. How you guys doing?
That was quick.
Can you hear me okay, guys?
Yepper.
Doing a re-mic check and getting all our connections back up again like they were so that we're all hearing each other and not having any feedback. So it sounds like everything's good to go. So any questions on sphere of influence before I jump into targeted prospecting? I think that as a goal, and as I said earlier, you can start contacting, should start contacting your spheres of influence as soon as you can. You could make calls or one or two. It'd be great to have something set up as a meeting, whether it's a virtual meeting or whether you can work into your schedule and everybody's happy with a face-to-face. Certainly your sphere of influence, those that you're close to especially, that might be a possibility you could suggest. But following that guideline at the end of the presentation segment that I did on sphere of influence, I'd like to see you start scheduling at least one meeting a week for the next 90 days with your sphere of influence, with the expectation of walking out of there with some help, some advice, some guidance, and hopefully 2 to 3 referrals that they would be comfortable in letting and introducing you to. As sort of an activity. This is going to show up at the end of our presentation today as an activity plan. I want you to work on tonight as just start getting familiar with it, getting comfortable with it, and this will be the activities that you'll be doing relative to your outbound contacting, outbound prospecting, which would include your sphere of influence and your targeted 40, as we'll describe here in the next segment. Any question about that part of your activity, the sphere of influence contacts? Okay. Let me grab my presentation back here and we'll get started.
You must be here.
All right, so back to that targeted prospecting. I want to talk about what it is and how to do it, and then we're going to end up this section here with an activity plan template that I want to show you to use as far as beginning to think about what you're going to be doing over the next 90 days to execute against reaching out to people and trying to get some activity going. Like, okay with everybody? So, targeted prospecting. Rob walked in the room and said we're supposed to be talking about prospecting, not marketing, because we're looking at this slide right here. And the reason for this slide here is I want to differentiate and pull away from marketing.
Yeah, there's no slide, Jim.
Pardon?
Jim, there's no slide.
I know it. Gosh darn it. You know, I forget all these little simple things, right? Like sharing my screen, but we'll get there. Just hang on.
I thought Chris hijacked your machine. That's what happened.
Oh, yeah.
Chris has got 4 other things going on right now. I got one ear on Jim and the other ear on y'all. So that's how I roll. Man, Stanley keeping me honest. I love it.
Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I apologize for that. Can you see it now okay?
Yes.
Yep.
See that media up there and a bunch of road signs?
Yes,
So-
sir. Jim, real quick, the Excel sheet you shared with us, will that be on the CMID Connect?
Which one?
The Excel workbook you shared with us with different tabs?
It will, yes. There actually will be 2 of them that I'm sharing with you that'll be out there. One is what to do with a web lead, and one is how to plan and build a project for targeted prospecting, which is our topic right now.
Sure.
So when I'm finished with this section, I'm going to show it to you, and it'll be part of your material.
Thank you, sir.
Good? All right, good. Okay, so I want to just differentiate what marketing is and what targeted prospecting is so that we're clear on what page we're on, and it's going to be on targeted prospecting. So the first thing I want to do is say, what is marketing? How do you look at it? I'm going to be really simplistic about it, just very at a gross level, but I want to draw some of the clear distinctions between marketing and targeted prospecting so we're all comfortable with it in our mind. What marketing is going to do for you is give you a broadcast generalized message directed to a relatively sizable demographic, and that could be 400, 500 people. By definition, it's going to be hard to personalize it, so it's a fairly generic, even though it may be industry specific, like targeted to lawyers or to doctors or to CPAs or whatever the case may be. But it won't be any more personalized or directed than that. It's going to have a limited call to action because there's going to be all sorts of things you're going to want to do with a targeted prospecting set, and you're going to be talking to them and engaging with them. A limited call to action might look like call this number 800-XXX for more information, or fill out this form if you're on a website, and we'll get back to you with a response. So that's what we're doing here, is just trying to get some introduction through a marketing program that's got a broadcast. It's like throwing flyers out of the back of an airplane and hoping everybody gets one. It's going to be what you see coming out of marketing department mostly. It'll be the kinds of things like campaigns, like the digital-only campaigns, the quarterly campaigns, the industry campaigns, all kind of float under this umbrella of broadcast or generalized marketing. So let's jump over, unless there's a question. Any question about any distinction here? Good. Let's look at targeted prospecting. Targeted prospecting is very different. It's something a marketing department is not geared to do. It is something that's outbound, it's specific, and it requires some knowledge and research in order to be effective. So it is going to be conducted largely by you. In fact, in our case right now, it's going to be 100% you. It's going to have a multi-mode, multi-touch. By mode, I mean, is it a vector through email? Is it phone mail? Is it a social media connection? Is it a piece you sent them in the mail directly, direct the address to them? That's what we mean by a mode. A touch is any contact, whether it's an email contact, leaving a phone mail, having a conversation, having a meeting. That's considered a touch. It's going to be specific to an industry. It may be specific to similar industries like service industries. It might include something of the nature of financial services, professional services, business services, but it's generally going to be something that has an element in common, and that is that they have a professional product or service to sell, and it's all generally done through computers and technology. It's a high technology density, if you want to call it that, business. And you're going to be looking at specific personas, CEOs, CFOs, business owners, however you classify them or sort through them, target them with a specific message that's will be immediately resonant with them. Typically, or always, it's going to have a very specific need or concern typical of a persona and in an industry. So it may have a compliance overtone if it's in the medical services industry. It may have a simple security issue if it's in a company or it's in an industry that has a lot of companies that are doing remote work from home, having their teams work remotely. What are the security, what are the connectivity, what are the other concerns that may be associated with that? Maybe more than one. You may have more than one message that you mix as you go through the multiple touches, or to different companies and different industries as you go through this directed process. It's personalized. There's something you know about that person. It could be their job position, their title. It could be the fact that I saw you in an article about a merger and acquisition you recently were involved in, or it could be an article about something they've done for a client themselves. It could be something that we just hired on the CEO of this company, and it was a news article in, say, a local business journal. Whatever it is that you can point to that's personal about them is a fundamental part of these series of messages that we're going to be putting out in an attempt to contact them. It's going to require some time. We really want to know, first of all, who the person or the persona level is. We kind of want to size it by the company size, company revenue. We may want to constrain it to certain industries or sub-industries. We will certainly want to corral it with the persona. Is it a CFO kind of thing that we want to get to? Is it a business owner or a CEO, president kind of a target? Whatever that research is, we want to make sure we target it correct, and we start looking into what are the concerns and issues related to that industry, to that persona. An example might be just researching what's going on in the dental industry right now. Dental industries are being, from a COVID standpoint, relegated to cosmetic and to elective surgery or elective procedure, and it's killing their business in a lot of ways, especially on the cosmetic side. So you might want to address what are you doing to, and it's hard to virtualize dentistry or any medical service, as you can imagine, but there are things you could perhaps reach out to in terms of how they might be reaching out, how they might be offering services, et cetera, that you could point to. A more typical example that we see is in the CPA world or the financial services world. They've got business. They're still doing taxes. They're still helping people with their investment portfolios. But all the people that are working for them have moved remote. And that has its challenges in terms of security, confidentiality, connectivity, performance, et cetera. As you move people into a remote workforce, what are you doing to make sure that they're secure and that they're able to be productive in that world? So whatever that research requires, whatever you look into, you're going to be, I'll show you some sources and tools you can use in a minute, but you're going to be doing some things that really kind of get really down to the issue specific to almost that individual, certainly to their company and their industry, and what things they think about and what things you have to offer to help them alleviate those concerns.
Jim, is there, because we've heard some things about, staying away from certain industries because of HIPAA and stuff like that.
Right.
Is there some specific market segments that would be targeted here that, hey, as a new franchise person, focus on these 3 or 4 market segments to start? Is there something like that or recommendations?
Well, yes, there are some recommendations, and a lot of it could be very, very specific to your region and what's the nature of your demographic. I mentioned yesterday that one of our franchisees who lived in Everett, Washington, managed to find a very clear niche in Boeing Aircraft Corporation subcontractors. That industry is absolutely dead right now, just overnight. So what might be in a good industry a year ago is not such a good one right now. So I would advise you obviously stay away from that. You don't have to worry about it because Boeing's not that widespread. But companies that are involved in emergency services are probably being deluged with COVID right now. But on the other hand, doctors who are doing elective surgeries, cosmetic surgeries, are scrambling for business. So that's probably not a good industry unless you find sort of a niche in between there that still has a GP, general practice focus, and is taking care of people. They still get sick. They still have colds. They still break bones. They still have other procedures that are not considered procedural or elective. Finding those that are specialized in that kind of medical services would be an example. Financial services, as I said, CPAs, accountants, et cetera, still do taxes. Legal services, still very active in terms of business law, criminal law. In fact, there's probably going to be a whole spat of liability cases coming up on who's liable, what event manager said that they could gather 1,000 people into this arena and all half of them get sick with COVID-19 and they get sued. So there's going to be a lot of activity for lawyers. And so there's going to be those kind of industries. When we did our pilot, we started out just after the major COVID threat began to show itself. And we picked industries like I just described, CPAs, service industries. Construction industry is actually pretty strong in some places like Austin, Texas. I don't know demographic by demographic if that holds true in certain other areas, but that's a go-to industry that you could take a look at. We can work with you and giving you what we know at a high level, but we'd also like to get your feedback as to what you know about your region, your demographic. And we can kind of convince and talk about how to mix and build the right kind of mix to develop a set of target prospects. And we'll talk a little bit more about how to do that here in just a minute. Did that answer your question, Bill? Does that kind of give you a sense? It varies, and it's so demographically dependent, it's hard to pick just a generic statement about which ones work and which ones don't.
Okay.
Hey, Jim, I know the restaurant business has been hard hit as well, but I just saw a headline from Dallas Morning News, and they're saying that restaurant operators are pretty much paying substantial sums for new technologies and enhanced security. So it looks like there's opportunities there from the restaurant perspective.
Mm-hmm. And again, state to state, city to city, county to county, restaurant rules and social distancing and capacity rules vary across the board. And those that are more liberal in terms of a 50% capacity are probably going to do better, at least for the time being, than ones that are limited in other cities to 25% capacity and opening up their restaurants. A lot of them have been focusing on how do I change my business model from a POS table-driven to an order-driven takeout service, and how do I adjust for that? So, yeah, there's a lot of nuances in almost any industry, how they're being impacted by this pandemic, and it just literally takes some time. This is why you can't do this with 1,000 companies. You can't research every one of them, find out what every one of them's doing, and these are the kinds of questions you would want to know, digging into the what's going on with this particular company, whether it's a restaurant chain, whether it's a doctor's office, whether it's a law office or a CPA. I'm going to tell you probably the best bets to start will be in the legal services and financial services industries, or in the consumer products industries, companies that produce essential items like food or not cosmetics, but personal care items, things of that nature. They're going to continue to have a role in business and could be potential prospects for you to go out and look at it. You've got manufacturing companies that are manufacturing critical goods. You don't want to go finding people that build airplanes or ships right now, because that industry is pretty well tanked out in terms of new opportunity.
Jim, we also have been getting few requests from people working from home if they can help them.
Are we?
At least we are.
Yeah. Now, are these coming from individuals looking for help, or these companies that are sending their employees home and want to equip them with the right technology to work from home?
These are the individuals that work from home and they need some help and want to make sure they are protected and they have multiple devices.
Yeah, I would ask him. The question I would ask him is, are you working for somebody else? Maybe I should be talking to them about helping all the people that are in your situation of working from home. If the company is not taking care of them through help services or through connectivity services or getting them the right secure layers onto their computers and monitoring, how do we, and doing backup, how are we taking care of those? So that's what I would look for, is the company level contacts for people that are needing services for working at home.
Sure.
That make sense?
Yeah, that will make sense. Yeah, because we'll like to work with companies than individuals.
Okay. So the specific call to action is going to be really, can we spend 15 minutes to learn more about what you're doing about this? Or do you have 30 minutes next week for us to talk about how you're faring in terms of providing the services your remote workforce needs? Those are the kind of calls to action you will make. I'm going to give you a little formula here in a minute that you'll get very familiar with as we dig into the Jay Barrows methodology of how you do targeted prospecting. Creating a target prospect plan. First of all, you've all got lists of some sort. Stan, I don't know exactly what you've got in terms of what David's got in terms of current list, but basically, if you've got a list and you've got certain characteristics of people on that list, and you've got URLs and email addresses and physical addresses, you've got the start of a base from which to mine these 30 to 40 key prospects. That's the first thing. Segment it. Look at the industry you think you might want to go at. You can just screen out everybody that's not in cosmetic dentistry, but are in what you might call the regular routine dentistry, which is regular, handling fractured teeth, getting fillings done, helping with other conditions that need immediate attention in the dentistry world. You could ferret out cosmetic dentistry from regular dentistry. For the way to do that, look for your CPAs, look for your lawyers, look for anybody that's going to have somewhat of an immunity to just the market for them going away. Their markets are actually in many cases increasing. Look for manufacturers that are manufacturing critical goods, food and personal care items, and you might want to even look at clothing. Although I see a couple of clothing stores going out of business right now, so that demand may be affected. These are just kind of conditions you got to research yourself. But find those industries. It may take more than one to get you the 30 or 40 that you want to have that represent sort of the stalwart players in that market in your area. You want to be able to identify them on that criteria. Other criteria will include, as I'll show you later, what level of person you want to reach out to. So that persona could be a C-level. It could be IT. If you're looking at 25 to 50 employee-sized companies, there may be an IT staff, an IT person on hand. You may want to target them. Why would I want to go after the IT director of someone that's already got an IT operation? Because they may be dealing with the very issue we're talking about here, is that how do I distribute the workforce to work out of the home? How do I set them up? They may need some help there, and you've got some remote service, you've got some techniques, you've got some partners that can help you do that remote servicing in their world, and they just may need the augmented help to do that. Look at the two issues or so that they face on a day-to-day basis. Think about, well, what is it they might be worried about? Because I want to play to that, and I want to reach out to them on that basis is the reason for me to get in touch with them. There may be, what is it that's worrying you the most if it happens to deal with remote workforce? The CMIT product that addresses that issue is going to be what? Can you name one?
Jim, I missed that. Can you please repeat your question?
If I have a problem if I'm concerned about supporting a remote workforce myself as a business owner, and that issue might revolve around security, is that environment secure? What could I offer up to fix that or address that? What might be an example here? There's several, but you can pick one and just relate it to what I could do for you to fix or address that problem. I just was asking if anybody knew of an example of something you could do.
You mean like provide the antivirus on the machines?
Antivirus
or
solution, yeah, absolutely.
The monitoring tool?
Put an RM on there and make sure your antiviruses are up to date. Make sure they stay up to date.
Yeah. Monitoring tool for servers? Not utilizing that?
Monitoring, backup and recovery. Backup. If you got an adequate backup that can do an individual device backup and maintain that in a cohesive, comprehensive way, consistent across all people in the workforce that are working remotely. So this is what you're laying out as your execution plan. Who do I want to get in touch to? What are the issues they think about? What might I have that addresses that? And then the next message is kind of build that into what I call the attention graphic, which is this is what the result will be. So the result is that if you're this person with this concern, and I've got this solution for you, and the result would be more secure, less disruption, more efficient environments, protection of your data. I'd like to reach out and maybe suggest we get together for 10 or 15 minutes next week. So that's kind of what we're building toward. We start with a list with the idea of, and by the way, there are a lot of parameters that you will apply because you know something about these businesses in your territory. As we said earlier, they may just be the best of breed in your territory. Everybody knows them. They're very active in the community. The CEO is president of the local Rotary Club. You've got a 2-degree connection through somebody you worked for 2 years ago that knows them and could provide possibly an introduction. You know they're really stressed out because they've got a professional workforce they're trying to distribute to work remotely. You know something about these people that I probably can't parameterize in terms of a Boolean set of figures, or a Boolean set of expressions that I can apply against the list. So a lot more goes into this list than just searching on certain fields. It's who you know, what you know about them, how they're perceived in the community, where they're showing up in the news, etc. So there's many, many parameters that if you spend time and attention on this, you're going to come up with what I call your golden 40, golden 50, golden 30, whatever you want it to be, that you're going to target and spend time on reaching out to personally to get their attention and to establish a communication. The next thing we want to do is to build that cadence plan, stretch it out, build it out to where it's going to make sense over the next, I'd say, 15 to 20 days. You'll probably see somewhere between 13 and 16 different touches potentially occurring, depending how long it takes them to engage you, for you to create an engagement. At which point you start a different path. You get off the cadence plan and you start down the rest of the sales funnel by having those closer, more directed conversations, hopefully leading to a business and technical assessment. Any question about the process and the plan? Mentioned, just to quickly summarize here, your top 40 outside the parametric view of searching a list. Read the news, look for the movers and shakers, find out who's active in your community, know your background and experience. If you're an engineer, if you're an accountant or a financial person, and you've got some financial connections and some financial expertise, your understanding, your background may help focus on some of the unique needs of people who are in the industry where you built an expertise. You may have that unique demographic in your territory, like the Boeing subcontractors. Your connections are all important through LinkedIn, through however you want to reach out. You want to be able to utilize all of these mechanisms to come up with your ideal list. These things can't necessarily be computerized or parameterized in any way. It takes you to think about it and apply your knowledge and experience to selecting out that list. Plan on spending probably an hour or more per prospect that you want to reach out to and build a knowledge base around. The first cuts can be real easy if you just want to go through your list and cut out all of, reduce it down to all the C-level people in the law industry. That may be your first cut, really easy, really quick to do. But then getting into the search, looking at the news alerts, doing industry research, pulling out more information about the market, about the company, and about the individual, that's where the time is going to get spent. Question about that process? Does it make sense to you as an exercise to go through? This is something no marketing campaign is going to be able to sort out for you. So that's why it's different than calling it, well, I'll just let marketing do that. They can take care of that. I'll just give them the name and they'll fix it. This is really, really directed to getting to someone at a very personal level. Okay.
I missed Jim. I missed some of the attention grabber part.
I'm gonna hit that right now. I want to chart what that means and work down that little process here just to show you what it looks like. Is that your question? What it is?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So building your attention grabber is an exercise that comes straight out of Jay Barrows, and it's something that we've worked with several franchisees as part of our pilot program, and it was very, very successful. And it's a great exercise because it really makes you think about your territory, and it makes you think about the people in your territory and how you could do this on a more regular basis in a broader sense. It really starts off with a very simple concept. Who do we want to touch? Who do we think is the decision maker or the key go-to point in a company that's going to resonate to what I have the most? Is it the CEO? Is it the CFO? And more, we're finding CFOs are being very integral part, if not being the decision maker go-to point. So want to figure that out. That persona is going to be that person or persons. We have what we call a trigger, which is getting attention, getting the concept planted. The solution is what we have to offer. The result is what they'll see if they follow through with what we have. This is the 4 elements of what we call the attention grabber. It's a kind of a message technique that you don't have to use just in prospecting, but you can use it in any situation where you're trying to identify more closely with a suspect, a lead, or someone that you're developing a relationship with. And I'm going to show you how to build one, and I'm going to give you a couple of examples. If you look at the formula, it's real simple. You take the persona, the person you're trying to reach. What is the challenge, the priority, or the concern, or the issue they think about a lot, being where they are, the position they have, the industry they're in? What is it you have specific that you could bring to bear that will make a difference in resolving that issue? And what are they going to see as a result of that? That's the construct of a compelling message, and it's designed to be a short, quick sentence, it may be 2, that we call the attention grabber. So that's why we name it that way, Tan, is because it's a way to kind of put some things together that'll make them think. Kind of like your 30-second commercial. We help people, there's the persona, who may be challenged by the computer, they are frustrated with their computer IT, there's the challenge. We partner with them with our marathon services, there's the solution. To help them drive more dollars to the bottom line and improve their employee productivity, there's the result. That's an example of a message construct, and if you use that in ways other than just building a targeted prospecting plan, you're going to be more precise and more specific in what you can offer rather than just spouting out or giving them a list of things that you do and things that you have in the toolkit. Be specific to their needs. Yes.
I was going to say that was nice. I would have liked to have that right underneath that line. Just
What's
what
that?
You said, that example. If you go back to your other slide.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So right underneath there, what you just said would have really sealed the deal for me because I could see it.
Kind of like that? I didn't say it just that way, but that's, or this.
Yes. Well, you mentioned the
These are 2
product.
examples of how you could put that together in a CMIT world.
There you go.
Is that what you're asking for?
Yes, that's
Now, I just made the other one up. This one I actually thought about, so that's why you see it up here. I typed it in last week. But that's the
one
kind
you
of
made
thing
up.
you want to do.
Yeah, the one you made up, I think actually is better than this, but that's just me.
Hey, this is something you can do as an exercise.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask you to do this next week, is to start thinking about an industry. I want you to think about that tonight. Is if I could just ask you to do one thing for me tonight, how would you go about taking a list and knowing what industry you're familiar with in your area, your physical geographic area, taking into consideration what I've already coached you on is the kinds of businesses that might be, or industries that might be most suitable for what we do, and kind of create your own. I'd like to see you build a message that you would like to see, and I'd like you to kind of identify who the industry would be, or maybe there's a couple of industries if you want to hit a couple of them, and come up with something that looks like this that'll get you kind of moving in the direction of what would I do as the first step in crafting a message for a targeted marketing campaign, or targeted marketing, targeted prospecting plan. Any concern or question about this exercise and what it's for? Anybody got any ideas about what they're already maybe thinking about for your specific area?
So tonight you're just looking for an attention grabber, or is there more to it than just that?
Oh, this is just the first part of it. But it's an important part of it because it's the why, who, and how I help people and what they will see as a result.
So, Jim, I think I'm still building my knowledge base of all what we can offer. So, still, I think I have very limited knowledge of what CMIT products are and what we can offer.
You'll get some help on the product side of things as we go through more of the training. What do we got?
Thursday this
Thursday.
So we start looking at business and tech assessment.
Right.
We're going to be in Dodge as our project manager. We're going to be able to build a little bit more on that, Tim. If that doesn't get us where we need to go, I know we had a call out about some of the cost, some of the pricing Excel spreadsheets, some of the things we kind of briefly touched on our earlier presentation. If that doesn't tie things together for us, we will definitely come together on Friday and make sure that we fortify that knowledge for you. But getting it, do you want to go ahead and take it to that slide? Your exercise slide, I haven't
Which one is it?
your exercise, what you want them to do.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to add, yeah, we can do that, or we can just simply move into the rest of this presentation, and I'll flip over to that so we see the whole
We're going to
thing.
be at time. You asked them for 45.
Yeah.
So we need that. We need to honor that.
Okay, let's finish this through here, and then get to this thing, and then we can just put that up there.
Can do. Okay.
Yeah.
So we got all that. We've got that in mind. And again, we asked them to start tying these things together towards 90 days. We're working towards that. So I know the product side, Ken, that's an ask you've had of us before. Let's make sure we pay that off on Thursday and we get in here with you. If not, we could definitely include that on Friday's part with Rob giving you some steps forward after your launch celebration. So we're asking for a little bit more of your time on this to make sure we bring it full circle. But if we don't hit those points, we need to make sure we address that on Friday, and then moving forward, we have that knowledge of what all of this actually means in the long run. So we've got that front of mind. Well, we're with you on that journey, okay?
No, I think that will really helpful. And if you know, Chris, and if you have already an existing list somewhere, kind of issues or problems we solve and what are the solutions we use and what are the options we have, I think that will be probably a good starting point for.
Yeah, we'll construct that. We're going to be constructing that list as part of our exercise tomorrow. We're going to be working on lists like that, and also you'll have some sense of as you get further into how we do things, what we do. You'll begin to build your own list based on the characteristics of your region and your territory as to the makeup of that territory, and begin to build that list of things we could do for problems we can solve. The good news is it's not terribly complex. It's just sometimes it gets, how do I connect what I have to what I know I can do to help someone? And we're working on that as we go through these exercises the next 2 days.
So Jim, I'm looking at this here. The duration 15 to 30 days. I have taken pretty good notes. I don't remember the days. I know we had the that spreadsheet that we did, and that was the 14 touches within
For 15 days, or yeah, it was a 2-week. It was a 2-week
yeah,
plan.
14 days. Yeah.
Typically, these plans,
Who's this?
these targeted possibility plans, will be somewhere between 2 and 4 weeks.
Okay.
And that's why I said the duration, the time
It'll vary.
Really hear you.
to working those 30 or 40 prospects, the duration will be about 15 to 30 days. At some point, you either got to say, hey, they're not going to get back to me. I'll put them on nurture mode. Or are you going to connect with them and start that process down the other sales process?
You calling from where?
One-on-one conversation into the business itself. Or they're going to go into some other mode of just they're just not a good fit.
I cannot hear you.
Okay, I guess I was more. I wrote down. I wrote 12 days, but I see you're saying 15 to 30 days.
There's no magic number, Stan. It's more of a, what do you think is going to be the average number of days I need to get through this list of 30 or 40 people? I want to be able to hit them at least with 12, maybe more touches. It could be as few as 6 if they engage quickly.
Mm-hmm.
you want to use at least 3 different ways to get to them.
Yeah, phone,
Email,
email,
mail,
voicemail, social media.
LinkedIn,
Yeah.
those kind of things. The interval between touches should be between 0 and 2 days. There'll be days when you make 3 or 4 touches in the same day. That first phone call followed by an email, followed by a LinkedIn invite or something of that nature. There's 3 touches in one day. So the interval is a function of where you are in the cadence and the kinds of touches that are most effective during a stretched out period. And we want to use at least 3 different methods to get in touch with people, because it keeps the variety from getting too rote and too mundane and too jaded.
Gotcha.
I'm going to show you an example here in a minute. And by the way, I'm going to ask your permission if I can go a little bit long, if that's okay, just so I can finish this out and give you something to take home tonight to work on.
So if we don't give you time, we won't have nothing to work on.
There you go. You could interpret it that way. You can interpret it that way. So building your plan is really, how do we get a contact? What kind of touch we want to use? What mode do I use to reach out for that touch? I got phone, I got email, text, voicemail, social media, video message, direct mail. There's 2 more that I would think of that I missed here, or that I haven't shown you yet. Let's put it that way. Anybody have an idea of another way we can reach out and touch somebody?
Instant messaging?
I'd put that, yes, it's a good point, Twitter or something. I'll put that in either social media or text.
So meeting over coffee or lunch?
Say again?
I said meeting over coffee or lunch?
I didn't hear what you said.
I'm sorry, I heard something about
visiting.
lunch.
What?
Oh, yeah. You said meet them for coffee or lunch.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can face to face, absolutely. And that's kind of what you want to get to. That's what I call engagement. That's the goal, is to get that face-to-face conversation going. These are the touches that I'm going to be putting out there until I get that to happen. So that's the difference there.
And in a normal planet Earth situation pre-COVID-19, that's definitely the right way to deal with that.
Exactly. See, so I'm going to go back and just reemphasize the term engagement means to get that face-to-face or that one-on-one meeting to happen. And these are the kinds of avenues or modes you can use to reach out to someone with your message, your question, your ask, to have that meeting occur. One other way that people have described to me, and I'm a little ambivalent about it, is chat. Chat's an inbound process as opposed to an outbound process, but you could consider chat as a dialogue that could lead to another connection. So I would say that chat could be considered a part of a mode to reach out in a sense, but it starts with someone doing an inbound request to get engaged through a chat room. So call it that if you want to, but one thing you can direct, things you can do is, let's say you send them what we used to call it's an awestruck package. It's something that gets their surprise. When I was selling to enterprise IT directors in my enterprise days, we would oftentimes, if we're talking to the director or VP or CIO, CTO, we might find what the most popular book on that's the hottest top 10 seller on New York Times list that deals with the challenges and the successes in managing IT. Sort of the 7 secrets of IT, for example, to kind of steal a book title. And we'd send that to him as a FedEx package. We just send it to him, a little note saying, I thought you might enjoy reading this. Left you a message earlier today so we could get together. And they receive a FedEx package with a nice book in it. If they read it, they'll probably say thank you very much anyway. But if they haven't read it, they read it and they appreciate the outreach and the gesture. That is a technique it's used. I had salespeople make quota using this technique when we were doing this. So you could use any other delivery mechanism to deliver something. It might be bigger than a text message or a piece of paper as a letter. It might be a book. It might be a set of brochures. It might be something that is unique to their interests, whatever it may be. Maybe it's a little invitation type of what we call a lumpy mail, which people just open the mail simply because there's a lump in it. They want to know what's in there. These are all examples of things you could use as a mode to touch someone. And these are probably not all of them, but these are going to be 90% of them right here. So I'm going to stop here. Networking is something we're going to cover as a separate topic because it's probably not as appropriate today as it will be in a few weeks as things start settling down and we get back to networking. But I'll keep this material here for you to read through and look through as a key mode of outreach that you will be using more and more of as we begin to loosen up from this COVID thing. I do want to put a quick activity plan on the I'll stop sharing and reshare here in just a second, but let me get it going first in this mode.
Thanks for sticking with us, guys. I appreciate that. We're going to bring this thing home right now with the exercise for you. And I've got your call outs, I've got your emails.
All right. So this is a 90-day activity plan that we use. And I'm going to go quickly through the activity estimator because I'm going to give you a sort of a prescribed activity plan. But what we try to do here is try to figure out how many activities do I have to get involved in to close X number of deals. And there's a couple of variables here. What is the size of my deal, annualized or whatever for the period, and the number of deals I want to close. And if I have those two parameters, I can give you some numbers of what the conversion rate is through the sales funnel based on studies we've done. You can set up there's the study average, there's your average. You can play around with this, but the goal is to come out with this number right here is how many touches, how many outreaches do I need to make in order to achieve that goal. Now, an outreach in this particular case is I've started contacting somebody, so I've used all these touches to get to an engagement. I've got a conversation going. I start meeting with someone. I talk to them. That means bingo, I've connected. So consider outreach equal connection. A connection will then turn into a possible one-on-one conversation to get more and more information about what their IT needs may be or what's going on with their IT department. That hopefully will evolve into a buyer conversation. And then we get into the assessment, the business assessment, which is our target. So what I'm looking at here is that I have to do this is a year period, 278 engagements or connections in order to get 125 first conversations started. If I use the ratio, it takes me 8 or 10 touches to get one connection. That says over a year period, I got to make over 3,000 touches. Again, that's not you individually, point by point going and making telephone calls, but it'd be an email. It would be a voicemail that you left. It could be an invite through LinkedIn or some social media connect. But it takes a lot of touches to get to a number of what I call connections here for you to start moving into your funnel. We built this little activity plan. You can play around with this, but we built this little activity plan to kind of highlight two things. Number one, let me get through here. Number one, what are the key things that I want you focused on for the next 90 days? So I built out a little activity plan for you to start working toward and thinking about. Once you get your targeted list together, who you want to go out, you want to be able to start looking at who else can I be reaching out to. I'm going to have new leads coming in. I'm going to have my SOI I'm going to be talking to. I may have some networking opportunities or leads group opportunities, but this outbound prospecting is an area that I want us to focus on a lot over the next 90 days. And I'm going to ask you to consider and to be prepared for doing about 450 touches against 30 prospects over the next 90 days. And I think that's pretty lean. in the sense of that we see these cadence cycles go anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks to 5 weeks. We start a new one. But I'm asking you to start one for your 90-day period that involves 30 prospects, build your plan, and then where your cadence is going to be built around how can I build out that 450 touches over that period of time. Now, what is the cadence activity plan going to look like? This is what I'm going to finish you off, is to look at this one. So this is a prospecting, outbound prospecting cadence plan that I will offer up as a model. The cadence is going to be a 15-day cadence. It could be 30, but think in terms of 15. Excuse me, the duration is 30. The cadence is 15 touches over 30 days. And here's that same example. I use the same format I used earlier in terms of what kinds of touch. Social media with, let's say it's a LinkedIn invite with maybe an email follow-up to it. The next touch would be a phone or result in voicemail if I can't get an answer, with an email following that. Email number 3 is you can see the cadence going as we go through here. So that's an example of a cadence plan. This is 15 touches. If you do 15 touches over 30 prospects, that's those 450 that you need to get your engagements from. And those engagements will result in that connection that you start down the path of moving into the sales funnel. So this is the template I want you to start with. The exercise is going to be start developing your concept of what your top 30 would look like, including industry, including persona, and including the kinds of things they worry about. And then as our exercises, as we go through the next few days into next week, we're going to start defining those personas a little bit more precisely, starting looking at the things that they may be thinking about, start matching what we can do for them to those issues, and then try to, just to give them a concept of what the result they could expect to be. You've got some examples here for the various call outs and for the various things you could say or do, similar to the ones I did in that lead outbound example, voicemail, the various other outreaches you have. Here's some example scripts you can use as you build out your plan. I'm not going to ask you to build out a plan tomorrow. I want you to build the elements of what your plan would include, and mainly the characteristics of who you would like to reach out to. And I want to talk about those tomorrow, just see where you are, and we'll go from there. Any question about cadence? Any question about method? How this works? What the assignment is? So I'll put the assignment up. We'll have the assignment up and connect here shortly. And if you got any questions, you got my phone number to call me, or we'll just cover them tomorrow when we get back online. Everybody okay with that?
Yep, I'm just making sure. The last time you said the assignment was to build the attention grabber. That's still it, right?
We're going to work on that. I just want you to think in terms of, if I had to pick 30 people out of my territory, what would be the characteristics I would pick them on?
The persona. Trigger.
I may even know the specific companies I want to go for because I know what their reputation is, and I'm not going to find that parameterized in a list anywhere. But it may be just people in the financial industry who are bigger than 15 people, and I got the name of the CEO. And I can start creating at least a set of parameters for whom I want to target. From there, I'll build my messaging and build my cadence and build my action plan.
So Jim, what is your suggestion to pick the top 30?
Say again?
So what is your suggestion to how to pick the top 30?
Will be the parameters we talked about earlier. You can chart by industry. If you want to pick people in the financial services or legal industry or in the CPA world. If you can find 30 there, fine, that's great. But you also want to apply other parameters to of the right size, more than 15 people. Do I have the name of the CEO, the address, the physical address, and the phone number and the email address? So these are going to be sort of basic requirements. So you start working these parameters into this, that list may shrink, and you may have to find ways to grow it. But then I want you to apply your own brain cells to it, your cerebral matter, is what do you know about this company? What do you know about this industry? What do you know is unique to San Antonio that may have some different demographic aspects to it that would influence the kind of law firms I'd want, or excuse me, CPA firms, whatever I'm looking for, that I would want to pick. I may have specific friends who are connected to different law firms. Definitely want to put them on my list. So those are the kind of other parameters that I can't put a Boolean expression together to go find, that you also need to think about. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. But do you know if you can also find, if I want to look at the companies which have not fared so bad during this COVID, like if I want to look at the companies which have filed sales tax and haven't lost a lot of money, so they can still afford our services?
That may be hard to screen. The things I would look for would be a little bit higher level than that. I would find maybe people who are susceptible to certain issues of financial pressure. They might be the fact that they're restaurants that can't hold their doors open unless they got at least 50% occupancy permission from whatever their state and local occupancy rules are for social distancing. And anybody under 50% tend to fail. Then I'd say, hey, I'd figure out what the directives of my local authorities are in terms of restaurant occupancy to see if they're a viable restaurant. We've got one here in Austin that is a customer of ours that has done a really good job of being able to stay in business, largely because they've had a reasonably relaxed occupancy rate. If it's a bar where Austin, Texas authorities have closed all bars, I don't think they'd be a very good prospect. They're not in business anymore, or won't soon be. So then again, I just appeal to you to use your good judgment and good knowledge of your territory to further refine what you think would be really target good golden prospects that would meet the size and the opportunity level that you want to have as part of your portfolio of customers.
Oh, thank you.
It's an intellectual as well as a demographic exercise.
So I think I may have missed it, but what you're suggesting is pick few people from your SOI list and also pick some of the companies which are not part of the SOI, right?
Well, your SOI list is going to be your best resource for referrals. I wouldn't look necessarily, unless you know a restaurant owner, unless you know a doctor or a medical practice that you think would be a good opportunity for your services, and you know the owner really, really well, heck yes, put them on that list. But if you don't, if you know them as a colleague, ask them who they know that run their own business, somebody that they could refer you to, their own doctor, their dentist, or maybe they have customers in their business that might be candidates for you to do their IT for. I don't know what the makeup of your SOI is, but that's another aspect of researching your SOI is who do they know? And that's what we're really looking for, and who could they refer you to? That's where most of the business comes from in terms of your early business. It's not from having a sphere of influence person who's a small business owner themselves. It's finding those in your sphere of influence who can introduce you to small businesses that they know.
I mean, you can use the Zoom info list, right, that we purchased, because it has a lot of that information.
Sure, you can start right there. That's what I would start with. Start with your current base of customers or prospects, I should say, or leads, however you got them classified, and and look through there first. Find out what falls through that, through those filters. All right, guys, I have kept you 15 minutes longer than I told you I would. Thank you for that consideration. Any question about what we have on tap for tomorrow, or what I'm asking you to do for tomorrow? The exercise will be showing up in your commit.
As soon as I can get to a power cord, I will upload those for you.
Okay.
Yep. And again, Jim, like I said, I don't have any kind of list or anything because I'm under David's umbrella. I mean, my main focus isn't going to be in sales right now, but it will be in the future. So,
well, I hope this exercise will help. You know, if you can get a list or get access to David's list, I think the exercise will just help you appreciate what the process is, your approach to it, and you can, what your approach may be different, but at least it gets you familiar with what the process is we're asking you to do. Bill, any questions? Been awfully quiet.
No, not at the moment. The guys were asking just where are we going to start with this off list we've got, or the dream companies we just don't have. But so yeah, we'll start on the list and go from there.
Yeah. You just got to start working it and just kind of peel it down until you get comfortable with it. And there's a lot of resources out there to help you look for, like I say, the movers and shakers as well as your list. So just look in the news, track people that are doing things, and you probably all have personal knowledge of people who have or are related to small businesses that you could leverage in terms of getting introductions. And you certainly all know more about your territory than Chris and I do. So we can help you get there so far, but the rest of it's going to be what I call your local knowledge, your local experience with the business community and your immediate geographic area. All right, gentlemen, thank you for your patience. Appreciate your attention. Sorry to drag it an extra 15 minutes, but take care. I'm going to turn you over to Chris, and we'll get the other pieces of your assignment uploaded and ready for you this afternoon.
thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, gentlemen.
I don't have much for you other than that's what I need to go and do for you is plug in and get you these two sheets and the activity slide of what the ask is from you. So that 30 seconds and then our 90-day planner. That's all I'm really looking for tonight. And then getting our minds, again, 90 days. I'm going to beat that drum again. 90 days in bandwidth. We're slowly building all these pieces into it. So we're getting there. So I will get those assignments to you. At some point, relax your brain cells. You've been great with us absorbing all of the material that we've given you today. We went overtime today. Thank you for that. And I know we're getting there, but I appreciate your patience with us.
Likewise.
All right. You guys have a great meeting. Thank you, everyone.